Am I the asshole for confiscating a friend's dental floss? I had a friend come visit from out of town for a long weekend. We've been friends over 20 years, and I was excited to see her. She's had cats in the past, but married someone who is highly allergic to almost anything with fur, so she hasn't had any furred pets in many years. She has some reptiles. I have numerous cats, and she was also excited to get a weekend of kitties. However, it became clear very quickly that she doesn't live with cats. Leaving food unattended, putting cups on the edge of the coffee table, counter, etc., made it a very messy weekend. But whatever, right? Then there was the dental floss. For context here, one of my cats ate a string he pulled out of a rug several months ago, and I paid thousands to save him. Like, he should have died. Not only was it a very long string, but he had numerous post-op complications. But he is my baby, and it was money well spent to me. My cat learned exactly nothing from the experience. He still loves string and hair ties, and I am hyper-vigilant about such things being left out where he can access them. I told my friend she cannot throw dental floss in the bathroom trash, it has to go in the kitchen trash. The bathroom trash had a lid, but this cat is very smart and very determined. And in the event the lid doesn't get closed, it's essentially leaving string right at cat height. Well, she didn't get the very direct, not even a hint. I kept finding floss in the bathroom trash, and twice I found it just laying on the counter, waiting to be swallowed. The first couple times, I tried to gently remind her. Then I directly told her again. When I found floss, yet again, just laying on the counter, I told her she needed to hand over her floss. I have the little floss picks she can use, but I cannot have long strings just being left around the house willy-nilly. I cannot afford to have another major emergency vet surgery. I was not rude about it, and I did not yell or anything, but it was just too big a risk to keep allowing her to leave it lying about. She complied, but after she went home her husband called me and said I was being totally put of line and treating her like a child, and that I should be more concerned with teaching my cat not to eat string. I do sort of see his point, but the reality is I tried to remind her not to do it, and it wasn't sticking. It's literally a safety issue in my home, one that could mean life or death. If she couldn't manage to dispose of floss in the kitchen, then my only choice to protect my dumb ass cat is to remove the dangerous item. There is no teaching a cat to not use their instincts, and eating things is instinct. Am I the asshole here? I feel like no, but the way her husband acted, I'm now not totally sure. And yes, I gave her floss back before she left. I'm not a floss thief. Teaching any pet not to eat something that is intriguing to them is like teaching a baby not to hit their head on corners because they should know it will hurt them after the first time. Lol, you are not the asshole. Not the asshole. Don't do things that can kill my cat, is a low bar for requests of a friend staying over. Ask if you can give their future baby sharp knives and a hot poker from the fire in the future, or they'll train the baby first. Not the asshole. Sounds like you treated her like a child because she acted like one. Your friend's husband just implied that his wife is both dumber and a bigger asshole than a cat. He thinks training the cat is easier than getting his wife to just choose not to be a dick for a few days. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. As if you can't teach a cat anything. Your friend sucks, her husband sucks worse. She was disrespecting your home. She was a guest, you gave her a rule, and she blatantly ignored it over and over again. Once might have been a mistake, but she continued to do it. It honestly sounds like she was doing it on purpose after a point. And honestly, she was only there for a long weekend. How many times did this lady floss? You're finding it multiple times in the trash, multiple times on the sink. Over the course of a couple days? What a psycho. How long was she there? I can't believe she left used floss on the counter. What a slob. Am I the asshole for stopping paying my ex's bills? Alt account so I don't dox my main. My ex and I split up about 3 years ago. No bad feelings, we just drifted apart until we realized that we were now co-parents, not husband and wife anymore. We have 2 kids, 13 and 10. My ex used to work as an infrastructure engineer and I was working as an owner driver with my own truck. At around the time the kids were born we decided she was going to be a stay-at-home mom. The trucking was going well and I had brought a second truck and a van, so I stayed home doing all the planning and admin, while I had the trucks and van out. When the smallest started school the ex went back to work part-time, but her time out of the workforce had hit her really hard and she needed to learn lots of stuff, and basically she couldn't get back in at her previous level and had to pretty much start over. Over the years the haulage firm had expanded and frankly it was getting a bit of a pain in the ass. We were too big for where we were and were needing to move to a new yard, so I sold it off for a reasonable sum and set up freelancing as a dev. Did computer science at uni. We both had relatives pass away leaving us property and money. So we were mortgage free on the family home. When we split, I moved into a house that I had inherited. We basically split the assets in half, split the costs of the kids' activities in half. And when we were sat looking at the money, she concluded that she would need to go back to work full-time and she would miss time with the kids, as they were with me the 3 days she was at work and every other weekend. I felt a bit bad for that, because if she hadn't been out of work for so long then she would be in a better place career-wise. So I offered to cover half of her bills until the kids went off to uni. She didn't want to at first, but I said to her that she helped me out and had now suffered as a result, so it was only fair that I returned the favor. It's helping my kids out, and I didn't want her to be running down the savings that was essentially the kids' inheritance. So this situation has worked out about as well as it can. We co-parent happily, everything is all good. Until she met a new guy. He's someone we knew from way back but we lost touch with. They started dating, she's really happy and she's talking about him moving in. Which I'm okay with. The kids get on with him and I trust her judgment and know that she wouldn't put anything ahead of the kids. So I said to her, if Lado is moving in you won't need the money towards the bills, will you? She said no she wouldn't, but she was thinking of putting it into the kids' accounts. Great idea, says me. I'll put some on their cards for pocket money and the rest in their savings. So that was what we agreed. But when new chap found out, he went up the wall and accused me of being controlling and financial abuse. A few of our friends have also said that he's got a point and that it looks like jealousy. So am I the asshole here? Update. Edits and clarification. We have joint 50-50 custody of the kids, so I have no actual obligation to be paying anything, but that said, I don't want my kids to miss out on their many and varied activities, so I carry on paying for half of those. Likewise, I offered the extra money to help with bills because I wanted my kids to benefit from time with both parents and also to not have to live in a house where money is a worry. Some have mentioned when division of assets from inheritance and selling my business. These are mostly locked away in long-term investments, so they aren't available. We were perhaps unwise in doing this, but we saw it as the kids' inheritance. My ex would rather have worked more than dipped into that money for living costs. The ex has been round for a cup of tea and a chat. It seems that Lado was indeed thinking that she was his meal ticket. Apparently he had suggested moving in but not told her that his landlord was ending his tenancy on a Section 21 to sell the property. When she started discussing money and his contribution, he asked why when I was paying for the kids. So she told him if he was living there he needed to chip in, and that if he moved in she couldn't keep asking for money from me. So she's upset and I think that's going to be over. In the meantime he's ranting to anyone that'll listen that I'm the typical evil jealous ex and controlling her with money. Not the asshole. Looks like he was interested in the free ride and now that the gravy train has stopped he's all upset. Your ex had no issues with the money stopping because she isn't interested in taking advantage of you, and two adults living together should be able to cover their own expenses. But new boyfriend doesn't want that. Not the asshole. Tell anyone moaning that you paid child support for your children, not grown men looking for a free ride. He'll already be saving in rent as the house is paid for. Is he really looking for his bills and groceries to be paid for by you too? If someone moves into another's home, they contribute to living there. That said, contribute too, not pay half as your kids are eating the food and running up the utility bills. It's pretty standard to stop paying alimony when the ex remarried or cohabits with someone new. Child support is still expected. You guys may have never been married, but just think of it in these terms. Use the courts if you think it'll be cleaner or more helpful. Consult an attorney first. Info. What the heck? The new guy has nothing to say in this situation. It was great how you and your co-parent are talking to each other, and the idea of you paying the money still to the kids was great. Ask your ex if she really think it is okay for her new boyfriend to get involved in these situations. Because they are clearly none of his business unless he thought he could live carefree now that he is moving in a mortgage-free house. Info. What the F+CK has any of this got to do with the new guy? Not the asshole, his opinion is irrelevant. The only opinion that matters is the ex-wife's and she seems fine with it. I admit as I was reading it, I started to think maybe a bit jealous, but even if you continue to pay those utilities, then you are effectively paying them for him. He is no one to you. You're good. Am I the asshole for yelling at my ex-wife for driving our daughter without her booster seat? I 35 male share custody of my daughter 9 female with my ex-wife. My ex has her on the weekends and drops her off with me every Sunday, and of course dropped her off with me today. My ex also has a new husband who has a 5-year-old son. When my ex dropped our daughter off today, I noticed she got out of the car from just the regular seat and wasn't in her booster seat. Turns out today my ex and our daughter thought it would be fun to stop off at the park for a while before she dropped her off with me. When the 5-year-old heard this, he wanted to come with them and my ex and daughter agreed. My ex didn't want to go through the trouble of uninstalling the 5-year-old's car seat and putting it in her car, and her husband needed his car for errands, so he said she should just put the 5-year-old in our daughter's booster seat and let her ride with just the seatbelt, and my ex agreed to this. I was so upset. I asked my ex how could she be so irresponsible to let our daughter ride without her booster seat. She said she didn't think it was a big deal since it wasn't a long drive and it was just one time and that our daughter liked not being in a booster seat. I got more upset and said it was completely irresponsible to drive our daughter anywhere without her booster seat because it's for her safety. I kinda snapped and yelled at her for a minute because I was so shocked and angry that she would disregard our daughter's safety like that. She got defensive and said he would have been disappointed if she told him he couldn't come with them and our daughter liked not being in a booster seat. I told her it was better to disappoint one child than put another in danger and our daughter is 9, she isn't old enough to make this decision on her own. My ex left upset and has since sent me some angry text messages and her husband sent me one saying I way overreacted. Am I the asshole? Info. Does the 9-year-old still meet the criteria for needing one? Do 9-year-olds still need booster seats or were you looking for an excuse to have a go at your ex? Info. Depends on the local laws and your daughter's size. Most 9-years would be legally and physically safe without one. I'm going to go with you or the asshole, but you went outsized with the yelling. There was no need to yell. Do you yell at her often? Because that's a maladaptive way of dealing with anger or irritation. Also, you are the asshole if your daughter witnessed it. That's not how to model conflict. Is this real? Look, technically many 9-year-olds are still in the height range to use a booster, but this is not exactly a safety catastrophe. My daughter still used one at 9, but she was the only one of her friends who did. I suggest you save your freak outs for something more urgent. A huge majority of 9-year-olds no longer use booster seats. If 9-year-old is tall enough that the actual seat belt fits correctly around her, then she doesn't need a booster. You're the asshole, I guess? IDK. How to rate this one. Am I the asshole for refusing to travel an hour to feed my friend's cat? I, 27F, recently agreed to take care of my friend's cat while she was away traveling for a few days. We're not really close friends, but she asked me because her apartment is close to my work, and I live an hour away from my office. From last Wednesday to Saturday morning, I stayed at her place for cat sitting, and I was happy to help because it was reduced commute for me and it's not much work to take care of a cat. She was supposed to be back Saturday night, and I left enough food for the day for the cat as I was leaving around noon. Around 6 p.m. as I was having dinner with friends at a restaurant back in my city, my friend called me to tell me that her flight had been cancelled, and they rebooked her flight so she will arrive Sunday noon instead of Saturday night. She asked me if I could come back to her apartment to feed the cat, as I am the only one with the spare key to her apartment. I told her I am in the middle of dinner and we are going to a party afterwards. Nothing bad will happen to the cat if she skips a meal or two until tomorrow noon, so I can't drop everything now and travel 2 hours, back and forth, to feed the cat. I did offer, if for whatever reason her flight is further delayed, then I will come on Sunday to feed the cat. Then she told me she can't believe I would let a poor innocent animal starve and suffer, just to be able to party and enjoy myself. She said this is animal abuse and she will have to report me. She hung up on me, and then she sent me a series of texts that switches from begging for me to go to her apartment to cursing me that I am a cruel animal abuser. I ignored all her messages and today I gave her key to a common friend so she can get the key back, as I don't feel comfortable talking to her anymore unless she reaches out with an apology. A part of me does feel bad about what happened though. Maybe she was just paranoid about her cat suffering. So what do you think? Am I the asshole for refusing to travel an hour to feed her cat in this situation? I mean, yes, the cat would survive, but that also really sucks for them to miss a meal or two? Like it's still a living creature with a functioning stomach. This isn't even that you refused to drive an hour to feed her cat. You were out, you were busy. You may have been drinking. No, you shouldn't have to drop all that to go feed her cat. She needs to have a better plan in place, honestly. Relying on someone who lives an hour away was never a good idea. That was absolutely ridiculous. You left on Saturday leaving the cat enough food for Saturday. The cat was certainly not going to starve if not fed again until Sunday. That was not abusive in any way, shape or form. Your friend needs to get over herself. I am a cat lover and cat owner myself, by the way. The cat had enough food for Saturday and the girl was supposed to come home on Sunday. How is this cat skipping a meal? Maybe the time will change but the cat will still get fed. You then kindly offered to come the next day if something happened again. Not the asshole all the way. I mean, I'm going to say yes. But because cats are one of the species that shouldn't go without eating very long. It only takes skipping a day of food for issues to potentially start popping up. So from my perspective, it's not really weighing the friend versus you. It's about the physical well-being of a living thing. Inconvenient or not, they have to have their basic needs provided by somebody. Not the asshole. You left the cat at noon with enough food to get it through to the Saturday evening when she was going to return. I assume you fed it at breakfast as well. Most cats eat 2 meals a day spaced 12 hours apart. If the cat had eaten its second meal of the day in the evening, it might be a bit hungry by the time she gets back at noon, but it won't starve to death. I assume the arrangements and expectations were agreed between the two of you beforehand, so she knew you would have left already by the time she called? Also, if you had been drinking, there would be no driving back for you anyhow, even if you had wanted to. Maybe she should leave a key with her neighbors next time or put the cat in a cattery, then she is covered for unplanned issues.